Let's be honest, cheating rarely comes out of nowhere. It's not a lightning strike. It's a slow leak in the roof, quiet, almost invisible until one day, the entire ceiling caves in. Most men don't see it coming. Not because the signs weren't there, but because we're taught to dismiss them. She's just stressed. She's tired. She needs space. So we make excuses. We rationalize the distance. We silence the feeling in our gut, even though deep down, we know something's off. But here's the truth. Most don't want to face. A woman who cheats doesn't do it without leaving signs. She leaves a trail, not of lipstick or perfume, but of small emotional shifts. The warmth fades. The conversations grow colder. The little rituals begin to vanish. It's never just one big betrayal. It's a dozen tiny steps away from you before she ever touches another man. This video isn't about blame. It's not about bitterness. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing the emotional footprints before they disappear completely. Because the worst kind of heartbreak isn't being cheated on. It's realizing you saw it coming and said nothing. So if you've ever felt that quiet ache, that inner tension that whispers something isn't right, stay with me. We're going to talk about the signs no one wants to see, but every man needs to. You ever sit across from someone you love and suddenly feel like a stranger's looking back at you? Her face is the same, her voice sounds familiar, but something in the energy and the way she looks at you or doesn't feels off. That's not your imagination. That's not insecurity. That's emotional distance showing up before it turns into something bigger. At first, it's subtle. She stops asking about your day, stops laughing at the jokes she used to love. You start talking, and it feels like you're speaking into an empty room. Like the warmth in her presence has dimmed, but she's pretending it hasn't. And when you bring it up, she'll say, "You're overthinking. I've just been tired." Or worse, "Why are you being so insecure?" But let's call it what it is. Her attention has shifted. Maybe it's to another man. Maybe it's to a fantasy of what life could be without you. Maybe it's not about someone else at all. Maybe it's just the idea of escape. The worst part, most men feel it and ignore it, because it's easier to stay blind than to confront the slow unraveling of something you've built. But a man rooted in clarity doesn't chase false reassurance. He doesn't gaslight himself to keep the peace. He pays attention to energy, not just words. Because when presence fades, even if nothing physical has happened, the emotional betrayal has already begun. So ask yourself, has she checked out? Even if she's still showing up. Cheating doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins in the quiet, in the shift from openness to silence, in the little things that used to flow naturally and now feel withheld. She used to tell you about her coworkers, her annoyances, the funny thing that happened at the store. Now, when you ask how her day was, all you get is, "It was fine." And that's it. The conversation stops cold. She used to leave her phone face up, out in the open. Now it's always face down or worse, gripped in her hand like it contains national secrets. And then there's her online presence. You used to be in the frame, mentioned in stories, part of her world. Now, it's like you've disappeared, as if she's single again digitally, emotionally. What's happening here isn't just a change in behavior, it's a splitting of identity. She's compartmentalizing. There's the version of herself that still smiles when she sees you, and the version that's already somewhere else. And the hardest part, she'll make you feel like you're the crazy one for noticing. That's emotional gaslighting, when your instincts start screaming and someone convinces you they're lying. But deep down, you feel it. You feel the distance. You feel the shift. And a man who's grounded in presence doesn't ignore the quiet. He listens to what's not being said. So ask yourself, has she stopped sharing? Not because you stopped asking, but because she started hiding. Because the truth is, what's hidden in the small things eventually breaks everything. There's something sacred about intimacy, not just sex, but connection. The way someone touches you when they still feel you, the way their energy lingers after the lights go out. But when intimacy begins to vanish or worse, mutate, you feel it. not always in the act itself, but in the silence that follows. That strange, hollow ache, like you're kissing someone through a sheet of glass. Sometimes it's coldness. She withdraws. She's no longer interested. Touch becomes effort. Eye contact feels absent. And suddenly, physical closeness feels more like duty than desire. Other times, it flips. She becomes unusually intense, new moves, unfamiliar energy, a hunger that doesn't feel rooted in love. And while it might look like passion on the surface, something inside you whispers, "This doesn't feel like us." Here's the truth. Both extremes are signs, because when a woman is emotionally somewhere else, her body follows. Sometimes it shuts down, other times it performs. But either way, the connection is gone. Real intimacy isn't just about touch, it's about presence. When that's missing, you don't just feel alone in the bedroom, you feel alone in the relationship. And if you've ever left a moment that should have been tender and instead felt emptier than when you walked in, that's not chemistry, that's disconnection. So don't just look at what's happening, ask why it feels like she's already left even when her body's right next to you. Because when intimacy stops being real, it's usually not the first thing to go. It's the last thing holding on. Have you ever been blindsided by an argument that made no sense? You forget to respond to a text because you were driving suddenly. She's accusing you of not caring. You leave one dish in the sink, and now she's questioning the entire relationship. It's confusing at first. You try to replay the moment in your head, wondering, did I really mess up that badly? But here's the truth. Most men don't hear often enough. It's not about the text. It's not about the dish. It's emotional displacement. When someone carries guilt, especially guilt they can't admit it has to go somewhere, so they redirect it, they project it, and you become the villain in a story you didn't write. It's a quiet form of self-preservation. If she can convince herself that you are the problem, then whatever she's doing, pulling away, talking to someone else, disconnecting, starts to feel justified. It's no longer cheating in her mind. It's coping. It's no longer betrayal. It's self-liberation. And suddenly, she's not the one walking out. You're the one pushing her away. That's gaslighting, but wrapped in emotional logic that feels hard to fight back against. So what do? You don't beg. You don't bite the bait. You don't defend every accusation. Because the moment you start justifying yourself to someone who's already rewriting the narrative, you've already lost your footing. Instead, you observe. You breathe. You stay grounded, and you ask yourself the real question, is this fight about me, or is it about something she doesn't want to admit? One of the hardest things to notice and accept is when someone starts building a future that no longer includes you. It doesn't happen with a big announcement. It happens quietly, in the smallest shift of language. She used to say, "When we go to Italy someday," now it's, "I've always wanted to travel." She used to say, "When we get our place together," now it's, "I've been thinking about moving." The word "we" disappears, and in its place, "I." At first, it seems innocent. We all grow, right? We all need space to explore. But over time, you start to feel the sting of absence. You're no longer part of her plans, not in her dreams, her healing, or her vision of tomorrow. And when you bring it up, she tells you you're overreacting. You're reading too much into it. But you know better. You can feel it in her eyes when she speaks about her future. You can hear it in her voice when she stops saying us. This is emotional detachment in motion, the exit before the exit. The truth is, most people leave emotionally long before they walk out the door. By the time you feel like a ghost in your own relationship, they've already rewritten the ending in their mind. So ask yourself, are you part of her future, or just a character she's slowly fading out? Because when your name disappears from someone's vision of tomorrow, they're already halfway gone. Cheating doesn't usually start with another body. It starts with absence. A disconnexion. A look that no longer lingers. A conversation that suddenly feels more like a formality than a connection. It's not a lightning strike. It's erosion. Slow, subtle, consistent, and by the time the physical betrayal happens, the emotional one already took place. Long ago. Here's the part many men struggle with. The signs were always there. You felt them, in your gut, in the silence, in the way her words stopped holding weight. But instead of facing the truth, you tried harder. You chased. You reasoned. You begged for someone who already left the room, not physically, but spiritually. Let me be clear. A real man doesn't beg to stay where he's being emotionally evicted. He doesn't lose himself trying to hold on to someone who already let go. He doesn't barter with confusion when clarity is calling him to step away. Because the truth is, you deserve more than attention held out of guilt. You deserve more than affection performed like an apology. You deserve presence. And if she's no longer offering it consistently, freely, genuinely, then your path isn't to convince her to return. Your path is to return to yourself. So choose clarity, choose self-respect, stay grounded, because the man who knows when to walk away is the same man strong enough to receive the love that doesn't ask him to beg. If this message spoke to something real inside you, don't just scroll past it. Take a moment, reflect. And if you're walking through something heavy right now, know this: you're not alone, and you're not weak for feeling it. This channel is a space for grounded men who value truth over illusion, clarity over chaos. So if you're ready to stop chasing and start growing, subscribe, join the conversation in the comments, share your story, or just say I hear you. Because sometimes healing doesn't begin with answers. It begins with being seen.